The wind howled through the abandoned town of Ashmere, carrying with it the scent of rust and rot. Once a thriving mining community, Ashmere had been swallowed by silence after the mines collapsed 20 years ago. The houses stood like hollow shells, their windows shattered, their doors hanging loose on broken hinges. It was a ghost town in every sense of the word. But there was one structure that seemed untouched by time, the old wishing well right in the center of the town square. Even long after Ashmere was deserted, locals would whisper about that well. They said it granted wishes, but only one per person, and only if the wish was spoken at the stroke of midnight. The price, however, was never clear. Some claimed it demanded nothing at all. Others insisted it took something far more precious than gold or blood. No one knew for certain, because those who dared to make a wish never spoke of what came after. They either vanished from the face of the earth or lived out lives too strange and unsettling to explain. Evelyn Hart had no reason to return to Ashmere except for one, sheer desperation. At 32, her life was completely unraveling. Her husband had died in a tragic car accident 2 years earlier, leaving her with a mountain of debt and a grief so heavy it gnawed at her every waking hour. To make matters worse, her younger brother Daniel had just been diagnosed with a rare, aggressive illness. The doctors said it was incurable. Evelyn had tried everything. She organized fundraisers, enrolled Daniel in experimental treatments. She even prayed until her knees were sore. But nothing worked. Then, one night while sorting through old boxes, she stumbled across a faded newspaper clipping about Ashmere's infamous wishing well. A flicker of something she hadn't felt in years, hope, maybe stirred inside her. She remembered visiting the town as a little girl, holding her father's hand as he sternly warned her never to go near the well. "It doesn't give," he had said, his voice low and serious. "It takes." At the time, she'd thought he was just trying to scare her, like a boogeyman story. Now, she wondered if he knew more than he'd let on. So, on a cold November night, Evelyn drove her beat-up car into Ashmere. The streets were eerily empty, the old lampposts bent over like broken bones. She parked near the desolate town square, her hand clutching a small, worn silver coin. It was her father's lucky charm, the only thing she had left of him. Midnight was just minutes away. The well was deeper and more imposing than she remembered. Its stone walls were slick with dark, wet moss. She leaned over the edge, peering into an abyss so black it seemed to swallow the faint moonlight. The darkness wasn't empty. It seemed alive, shifting and swirling like smoke. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the town clock began its slow, rusty chime for midnight. Taking a deep, shaky breath, she whispered her deepest desire into the void. "I wish for my brother to be healed." Her fingers, numb with cold and fear, let the silver coin slip. It vanished into the darkness without a sound. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the wind suddenly died. The silence that followed was so absolute, so complete, it felt unnatural, as if the entire world had paused to listen. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. She felt something brush against the back of her hand. It was cold, wet, and clammy, like the touch of a drowned corpse. She recoiled, stumbling away from the well in terror. And then a voice rose from the depths. It was soft, hollow, and chilling. Granted, the next morning, Evelyn's phone rang. It was Daniel's doctor, his voice a mixture of shock and disbelief. He said they were baffled. Daniel's illness had simply vanished overnight. His blood tests came back perfectly normal. His body was strong. He was laughing, telling Evelyn he felt like he had been reborn. A wave of pure, unadulterated relief washed over her, so powerful it almost brought her to her knees. But it was quickly followed by a cold, creeping shadow of dread. The well had granted her wish. The question was, what had it taken in return? That night, Evelyn dreamed of the well. In her dream, she saw her father standing beside it, his eyes hollow and empty, his mouth crudely sewn shut. He reached for her, a silent plea on his face, but as his fingers got close, they dissolved into ash. She woke up screaming, her throat raw, her sheets soaked in sweat. The clock on her knitstand glowed with an eerie red light. 3:33 a.m. Over the next week, strange things began to happen. She noticed her reflection in the mirror seemed delayed, moving just a fraction of a second after she did. Shadows clung to her longer than they should, stretching and twisting in unnatural ways. When she walked down the street, strangers would stare at her, their eyes wide with an unspoken fear before they hurried away. And every single night, she heard that same hollow voice whispering from the dark corners of her room. One wish, one debt. On the 7th night, Evelyn couldn't take it anymore. She had to confront whatever force lived in that well. She drove back to Ashmere armed with a lantern and her father's old journal, which she'd found hidden in a dusty corner of the attic. As she read it under the flickering lantern light, a terrible truth was revealed. Her father had made a wish at the well decades ago. He had wished for wealth, and soon after, the mines had struck a massive vein of silver. The town flourished, but the prosperity was short-lived. Soon, the town began to collapse under the weight of unexplained accidents, sudden deaths, and mysterious disappearances. The well had collected its debt, but not from him. It took from everyone and everything around him. Evelyn's blood ran cold as she read the final, frantically scrawled entry. It doesn't take from you. It takes from what you love. As she approached the well, the lantern's flame flickered wildly. The air grew thick and heavy, as if the entire ghost town was holding its breath. She summoned every ounce of courage she had and shouted into the darkness, "What do you want from me?" The voice answered, much louder this time, its sound echoing through the dead square. "Your brother lives. You pay." From the deepest shadows near the well, a figure began to emerge. It was tall and gaunt, draped in tattered black robes that seemed woven from smoke and night itself. It had no face, just a smooth, blank surface. Its hands were skeletal, with fingers that were impossibly long and sharp. Evelyn was frozen in place, her body trembling uncontrollably. The figure raised one skeletal hand and pointed directly at her chest. "Your heart." Evelyn collapsed to her knees on the cold stones. "Take me instead," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "Leave Daniel alone, please." The faceless head tilted, as if it were considering her offer. Then it spoke, its voice devoid of any emotion. "The debt is yours. The heart is yours. The pain is yours." An unimaginable fire ignited in her chest. She screamed as she felt invisible claws tear into her flesh, ripping something vital from within her. Blood poured down her shirt, yet when she looked, there was no visible wound. She collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air, her vision blurring at the edges. The figure leaned closer, its hollow whisper crawling into her ear. "You will live, but you will never love again." And just like that, the pain stopped. Evelyn lay trembling on the ground, clutching her chest. Her heartbeat was faint, distant, and mechanical, as if something inside her had been scooped out and replaced with cold machinery. The figure dissolved back into smoke and vanished into the well. Weeks turned into months. Daniel thrived. He was healthier and happier than ever before. Evelyn tried to smile for him, tried to feel the joy he radiated, but her emotions were gone. She was an empty vessel. She could no longer cry. She could no longer laugh, and most painfully, she could no longer love. Her heart was a hollow machine, beating only to keep her body alive. Her friends, sensing the cold, unnatural void that now surrounded her, slowly drifted away. She became a ghost in her own life, watching the world through dead, empty eyes. One night, Daniel asked her why she seemed so distant, so sad. She wanted to tell him everything, to explain the sacrifice she'd made for him. But the words wouldn't come. Her voice was flat and lifeless. He hugged her tightly, but she felt nothing. No warmth, no connection. Only a vast, crushing emptiness. Years passed. Evelyn's hair became streaked with gray, and her hollow eyes held the weight of a silent eternity. She returned to Ashmere one last time. She stood before the well, under the same cold moonlight. This time, she carried no coin, no offering. Only a single, burning thought in her mind. At the stroke of midnight, she leaned over the edge and whispered her final wish. I wish to undo it all. The well itself seemed to tremble. The ground beneath her feet cracked. The voice rose from the depths, no longer calm, but furious. One wish, only one. The entire town began to shudder. Buildings crumbled into dust, and shadows writhed like living things. Evelyn screamed, clutching the edge of the well as the ground gave way. Please take me. And this. The voice let out a laugh, a horrifying sound like bones breaking and grinding together. Granted, the earth split wide open, a gaping maw that swallowed the well, the square, and Evelyn herself. In a matter of seconds, Ashmere was gone, erased from maps, from memory, from time itself. The next morning, Daniel woke up with a strange, hollow ache in his chest, a deep sense of loss for something he couldn't name. He had no sister. Her existence had been completely erased, as if she had never been born. The legends of Ashmere faded into obscurity, replaced by an unnerving silence. The well was gone, but faint whispers remained on the wind. They said a woman made the final wish, and the price was everything. And that somewhere, in the eternal darkness beneath the earth, a single voice still echoes, a warning to all who might listen. Be careful what you wish for. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you in the shadows.